Thank you. Welcome to all of our attendees today. It looks like we're going to have a full house. Um, this is the National Community Action Partnership webinar series. I am Amy Jandusa English, Project Director for the Energy Partnerships Project. I am very excited to have you all with us here today. I'd like to go through a few housekeeping details before we proceed. The meeting is being held in the webinar is being held in meeting mode, so everyone can see and hear each other. We would like the network to interact and get to know each other, and I hope that you'll all take a moment to introduce yourselves in the chat. Our presenters today have time built in for question and answer. So if you have a question, try to hang on to it until we pause for question and answer. There's also question and answer time built in at the end. Next slide. Announcement before we proceed. NCAP is pleased to announce that you can now enroll to get your Certified Community Action Professional credential in 2023. So this is a really exciting process for anyone in the Community Action Network. A number of our speakers today have their CCAPs, and I'm sure they can testify that it's a wonderful thing to have on your resume and to boost the quality of your work life. Next slide. All right, now for the best part of the webinar, in my opinion, we're going to say the promise of community action. I will say it out loud, and you're welcome to come off mic and say it with me if you'd like. Whoops. The promise of community action. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. Thank you. Next slide. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn the slide deck over to our presenters. Lauren Barchi with NextAmp is going to lead us off, and each of our panelists will introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. We'll do major introductions in a moment, but just to walk you through the agenda for today. We're going to do introductions. I'm going to give what I'm hoping is a brief overview of what community solar is and how it works, everything from how you sign up to what it looks like on an energy bill. Then we're all going to talk about why we are talking about this and how it interacts with CAP agencies, the results of the work that we have all done together in Illinois, and then at the very end, explain more in depth about exactly who NextAmp is as a community solar provider. Brianna, you get to go first.
Hello. So I am Brianna Titus. I am the Director of Agency Development for Community Action Partnership of Central Illinois. Our corporate office is located in Lincoln, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Kathy Walk, and I'm the Energy Program Director for CEFS. We are located in Effingham, Illinois. We serve 7 counties in what we like to call South Central Illinois. And I've been with the Liheap program and energy assistance for 37 years.
Hi, I'm Mindy Browning. I'm from Ambrough River Basin Agency. I am the sister agency to CEFS. We also consider ourselves South Central Illinois. We have 9 counties. And if I didn't mention, I'm the Energy Assistance Coordinator.
And I'm Lauren Barchi. I am a community engagement manager with NextAmp. That is a for-profit company that does community solar across the country in as many markets as we can. All right, so let's talk about exactly what is community solar and how it works. So community solar is unique in that even though it is somebody going solar, as we say in the industry, there's absolutely no equipment on their house whatsoever. No new meter, no panels on their house, nothing like that. What happens is an individual home or apartment or anyone with an energy bill subscribes to a community solar array, which has to be within their utility territory. The subscriber organization, like Nexamp, says, looks like you need about this much energy per year. We're going to subscribe you for this percentage of our project. And then every kilowatt that's percentage of the solar array generates, gets put on your energy bill virtually. So all the energy that the solar array generates goes onto the grid, and then the utility works with Nexamp to put those credits, those kilowatt hour credits, on your bill virtually. So you will always see in community solar some kind of negative number on your bill for community solar. So you see it goes from 1 onto the grid and then into your house and onto your bill. The farm in Illinois that we are talking about today that allowed us to have all of these fantastic relationships is a farm, a solar farm in the Illinois Solar for All program, which is 100% for low and moderate income individuals. I always like to say that this project is the poster child for community solar projects, because not only is it for 100% for low and moderate income individuals and households, it is on a retired landfill, and it is in partnership with the city of Urbana. So it really hits all of the buttons on exactly what you want a community solar farm to be. It's in partnership with the communities. It's not on prime farmland, and it is for the people who need it the most. How do people sign up for community solar? In general, in all the markets that Nexamp works in, and even just community solar in general, usually the sign up process starts online or through a trusted individual, either like a CAP agency, which you'll learn more about today, or somebody at a fair or another kind of tabling event. You go online, put in your zip code. Again, it's per utility area, so that's why most community solar companies, Nexamp included, ask for either address or zip code at the very least. And then you are contacted by someone from that subscriber organization to finish the process. For some programs and projects, it can be as simple as you give them your utility account number, they send you back a contract, you sign up, you're done, to more complicated, especially more complicated for income eligible parts of the programs. And we'll get into in just a second exactly how all that paperwork works. We do the best we can to prepare all of the documents for customers. And then we hope that all a customer has to do is review and sign. In Illinois, it is a little more complicated. And this is what this lift is why we started to reach out to CAP agencies and wanting, honestly, their help, because this amount of paperwork takes a great deal of trust to get someone to fill out. So there are 3 different forms for the Illinois Solar for All program. There is what we call the basic information form, which is the income verification form. It in and of itself is almost 10 pages long and does require quite a bit of information, including proof of income eligibility, whether it's proof that they're on Liheap, SNAP, or another type of program, tax transcripts, W-2s. It can get pretty intense. There is then the disclosure form, which is another, I believe, 5 or 6 pages. The standard disclosure form is the plain English version, even if it is long-winded, the plain English version of how community solar works and how the crediting works on somebody's bill. The very last thing is the NextAmp agreement or the contract. Our contracts for NextAmp specifically go anywhere from 2 pages to, in Illinois, 5 pages, depending on the regulations in that particular market. So you put it all together, and to sign up for community solar in Illinois, it's about 20 pages. So that, knowing that and going to individuals in the low and moderate income communities and saying, here's 20 pages, we can save you 50% on your electricity usage, that's a pretty big jump. So we definitely knew we needed some help from within the communities themselves. Once a person does sign up, this is what their bill looks like. So they'll have their Ameren bill. Then they sign up with community solar. And if you can see here, I don't know if my cursor actually shows up here, but renewable community supply credit, it's -40, which is the same amount as the electric charge. And that's what we hope to do. It isn't always that way month to month, but annually, we do try to sign a person up for their annual usage. So for -$40 on their Ameren bill, they see the same $40 on their NextAmp bill minus their discount. And for Illinois Solar for All, it is a full 50%. So they are -40, and then the bill from NextAmp is $20. That is how that works as simply as possible. Renewable community supply credit is how it shows up in some markets. In Illinois specifically, it just shows up as off-site generation kilowatts.
Lauren,
It does
could
look.
I ask a clarifying
Yep,
question?
please.
Just for the sake of the audience, I don't think that you're going to explain this in a subsequent slide, but if I'm getting ahead of myself, please forgive me. But the 50% discount, that is the guaranteed savings that the Illinois Solar for All program mandates, right?
Correct. Yes.
So there could be, if I understand correctly, there could be community solar subscribers that are not low income, that are not under the Illinois Solar for All umbrella, and they would see a different savings level. They might not see
Correct.
any savings. And so what makes this model special is that 50% discount, which was achieved through a stakeholder engagement process at the regulatory agency, right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure that
and-
that's adequately framed for our audience.
No, that's perfect. And to actually add on to that a little bit is just to be clear that it is only in Illinois. It is
Right.
only on the energy supply, the electricity supply, not on the entire bill. There are some markets, Maryland, New Jersey, Massachusetts, for instance, where the discount would be on the entire bill. It includes, transmission, includes some, can cover some fees and things like that in other markets. But in Illinois, it is simply the electric supply. And because of Illinois Solar for All, it is 50%, but depending on the program that you are in, it could be very different.
Right.
No,
And so that's why NCAP at the national level wanted to highlight this particular model, because it is a good model. This is not representative of how community solar is going to work in every state, which we'll hear more about that in subsequent slides, of course. But
Yes.
that 50% guaranteed savings is what makes this a good model. I see Connie has her hand raised. Could we take one question and then I'll be quiet and let you finish, Lauren?
No, absolutely. I think we can open it up to questions now about community solar in general. I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Lauren, because I'm Connie Feem. I'm with Oceanique. We're in New Jersey, and you did bring that up. And I just wanted to ask you the question before we went further to make sure I got this clear. So I know I worked for the power companies for many years. I worked for the nuclear power and also the transmission and distribution end of things. So I do understand, kind of how things are displayed on a bill. And I know that what happened during deregulation, things changed. So essentially what I'm looking here, I guess this Ameren is your energy provider in Illinois, where we would obviously have Atlantic Electric or whatever the case may be. So my question is, it looks like this is a statement on a bill is what you're showing here, and it's showing the discount for the solar, just as it would be if you were buying your energy from another supplier. You're showing this plus the discount, and the discount obviously is different in every state.
Yes, so the discount will be different in every state. And it does on a bill in most markets work very differently than third-party supply because of where the energy comes from. So even though you're right, on the face of it, on the bill, it does look very similar to third-party supply. Regulation-wise, through public service commissions and things like that, it does work very, very differently. And in some markets, and again, this is market by market, state by state, sometimes utility by utility. But in most community solar markets, you'll end up getting two bills. You'll get your utility bill, which for Southern Illinois is Ameren. And then you will get your bill from Nexamp or your community solar subscribe organization. So you do end up getting two bills, but the two bills together would be less than the one bill was before. And that's just how community solar currently works in most markets.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
I don't see any other questions if you want to continue.
Yep. I know the double billing and everything can be confusing. Happy to move on to the more substance of the webinar, but if there are any other questions about community solar in general, again, I'm happy to hang on as long as there are questions at the end as well. It's all yours, Kathy.
Thank you. So I just wanted to kind of talk about how we all got started in this, and my CEO and I, we were very interested in community solar or just in solar in general, and wanted to see if we could bring our clients some savings with it. And so in 2018, we became a grassroots educator for the Illinois Solar for All program. And we knew nothing, but we learned a lot in the process. But in that process, we also figured out right away that for our customers, community solar was going to be the way to go, rather than putting solar panels on their homes that maybe had roofs that couldn't support it, and in areas and things. So we became very interested in community solar and determined that that would probably be the way for our customers to go. From our workshops that we held, we found out that our customers were very interested in solar and they were very excited about it. Unfortunately, we felt like we had a missing part. When you build up that excitement, we had nowhere to refer them to that next step. And that's what we were looking for. And we just wanted to connect them with the actual community solar. We were working with a solar developer on some other projects. He introduced us to Nexamp. And once our contract was up with Illinois Solar for All, we were able to start working with Nexamp and actually making that connection of our customers with community solar. And that's kind of how we got to where we're at today.
Mindy, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so right alongside Kathy, we were grassroots educators for Illinois Solar for All, and we're a lot alike. I really was excited about bringing solar to our community, to our customers. And so after Kathy had been working with Lauren, she suggested us to Lauren as another community action agency that might be interested in helping our customers. And so Lauren worked with our executive director and they co-branded a letter that went out to all of our Ameren customers. And here in Illinois, we have Liheap.net, which automates our Liheap process. So we have registers that I could download into an Excel spreadsheet, make a mail merge, and it was very easy to send out all of our letters. And so we sent our first ones out about a year ago, and we sent out almost 6,000 letters. And we did the envelopes, the labels, the paper, the printing, everything. Nexamp came back and reimbursed us for. And so we weren't out any money there. And then whenever that, excuse me, whenever that we sent the letters out, what we sent was a letter and an authorization form and a self-addressed stamped envelope, so that the customers could see, and that falls back on that trust thing. They have dealt with IRBA, they know us, and that gives them the in that we're saying this is okay. And if you will send us back this authorization form, we will help connect you to them. The letter told them they were under no obligation to do anything with it, except it was going to help them get more information about the solar. And so whenever we got the information back, the authorization letter back, then we took that, and Ameren also is very good and provides us with an energy assistance portal that we can go in and grab bills. And so we would go get our customer's bill, we would take proof that they were on Liheap, and we would send all of that to Nexamp. And then whenever that Nexamp would have somebody come on board with the farm, we got paid a set amount to do that. And so it worked out. The first year, it was kind of a trial and error. We had some issues where that we didn't get some of the authorization letters in. And so we had a few snafus, but we ended up with, I think at that point in time, we had a little over 100 participants come on board onto the solar farm. And that was exciting. So this year we did it again. And we have sent out, our staff, it took about 4 people, almost 2 weeks that first time. And this last year, we sent out almost 4,000 letters and only worked 2 hours a day on it with 3 staff members. And I just wanted to send out 600 a day. And so we sent out 3,600 letters over 6 days. And we've gotten about 3,500 or 350 of them back, which about 10%. And we'll have trickle down for the next few months. We just upload all that information to Nexamp, and whenever they get people on board, once a quarter, they send us a check, and that's pretty nice. So it has been very easy project to have some unrestricted funds with.
So Mindy, thank you for telling that story. Kathy or Brian, if you wanted to tell your CAP agency's story on how it went.
Yes, I'll go ahead and take this one since the other ladies already went. So again, like we got connected through this, through actually the CAP agencies in Illinois that was already doing it, mentioning that it was a good project to get started with, especially from a nonprofit standpoint. I work for agency development department. So when you hear unrestricted funds, that's something that I think triggers your mind a little bit and going, okay, what is this project and how can we get a part of this? And is it something that meets our mission and something that we want to do to bring in some unrestricted revenue? So of course, we got connected with Nexamp, and like Kathy and Mindy have already said, the process was fairly simple. For us, we did 3 different mailings, and we actually had an intern at the time. So our intern handled a lot of the mailings and stuffing the envelopes. And then she also was a big part of the ones that when the letters came back would go in and print the bills and print their proof of Liheap, and then get all of that entered into our NextAMP landing page. So if you're lucky enough to have an intern or a volunteer that is capable of that, that can make the process even simpler and also help out your staff as far as not dedicating as much time to something. But we did the mailings. We also use Liheap.net, but the agency as a whole also uses CAP 60. So we were able to pull reports from each one of those databases for our mailings, and used different volunteers and different staff agencies to be able to put the envelopes all together. I think it was the third mailing, we did things a little bit differently. So we actually uploaded on our website a Google form that allowed people to go to our website, directed to them by the letter they received, to actually fill out the Google form that they were interested in NextAMP or they were interested in community solar, and then also be able to fill out the authorization form rather than always relying on them to mail the letters back or the authorizations forms back. And like Mindy mentioned, all of the printing, the postage, the envelopes, all of that was covered by NextAMP. So that was not anything that we had to find fiscal resources for. And so we tried to make it a little bit simpler by putting it on the website. And we did. We had a great turnout, especially after the second mailing, and then the third mailing. You know, people were seeing it a little bit more frequently, going, "What is this? How can I be a part of this?" And of course, we had some that trickled in a little bit later. You know, still trying to figure out what the process looked like. I would say when we worked on it, we did 3 mailings fairly back to back. And so overall, with having some volunteers and staff members, it would take us about a solid week to get everything organized, printed, stuffed, and get ready for mailing. But then after that, we just kind of every day we worked on putting the authorization forms and the information into the landing page. As far as commitment, like I said, an intern definitely helped us. So I don't have a true sense of how much it took myself to do. But there was about 3 staff members that were involved throughout the process. And community action definitely helped with the connection for NextAMP because the customers know us, they trust us, they see the name of our executive director, they see our logo, and they automatically, you know, wonder, okay, what is this going to do for me? And we have a good relationship with our customers. So I think that was good to get them to understand community solar and to trust NextAMP a little bit more since we decided to put our trust in them. And then, of course, we did receive a check from NextAMP for the ones that did sign up. And of course, unrestricted revenue for any nonprofit can be a game changer. So for us, that was something that we greatly appreciated, being able to help some of our other programs that were in need.
Thank you very much for that.
We did have a question in the chat. Somebody asked, is the income limit for Liheap and Solar for All the same?
It is not. Liheap is one of those things where if they're on Liheap, they automatically qualify for Illinois Solar for All.
And
so
I just put the link for the Solar for All webpage in the chat if anyone wants to check that out in greater detail, because there is a lot of information about that program that we're not able to get into today, right, Lauren?
Yes, there's plenty on that website, but the short answer is if you qualify for Liheap, you do qualify for community solar, but they're not exactly the same.
Would it be safe to say that being a Liheap recipient is a form of categorical eligibility for Illinois Solar for All? Like
Absolutely.
You're automatically eligible if you receive Liheap. There are other ways to be eligible, but this is one of the easiest ways.
Correct.
And also, before we move on, I was curious if we could ask our agency representatives to talk about how the clients or their customers responded to the idea of subscribing. It sounds like you had a lot of participants, so clearly people were interested in it and liked the idea.
Yeah, this is Kathy. I'll take that. ours were very interested. At the first time mailing, they were probably a little nervous. Our logo was on there, my name was on there. So we got a lot of phone calls, and we had to assure them that, how the Illinois Solar for All program would work for them, and that we would never we just assured them that we were only allowing this company to contact them. They still had, there was no cost to them. It wasn't signing them up for anything. And it was just allowing them to talk to them. We didn't want to just give them our clients' names. We would never do that. And so we just wanted them to be assured that, we wouldn't have done it if we didn't trust this company, and that they were going to see savings on their bills. Because that was always in the back of our mind, is we got to have the savings on their bills. And happily, I've looked at some of our customers' bills that are enrolled, and you can see the savings there. And that made this mailing easier, because we did our first one a year ago, and then we just did another one. And so when people would call, I could say, well, I've looked at somebody's Ameren bill and I saw this savings, and that really helped assure people that we were legit.
I echo that. I was, honestly, as we were getting ready for this second one, I had Lauren send me the names of the people who were already on. So obviously we wouldn't be sending them another letter asking them to join. And I ran across a gentleman while I was getting ready for this, that his name I knew was on the list of the ones who were on the solar farm. And I thought, okay, I've got all of this information at my fingertips. I'm going to go look at his bill. Last year in August, his bill, which this was the month before he signed up for it, was $404. And those of us from Illinois, Ameren took a huge hike in June. And so we've seen 40% to 50% higher bills this summer. And I looked at his bill for August of this year, and it was $175. And so I was just like, oh, I'm just going to call him, because the missing piece I didn't have was how much that he had paid to Nexamp. And I called him, and whenever I asked him about it, I said, I'm the person who got you in touch with Nexamp. And I said, I'm just wanting to see for myself what the savings are. And he says, that's funny. I was just looking at this. He says, I have paid, which I thought it was funny because Lauren's description, her picture had $20 on it. He says, I have paid $20 a month to Nexamp for the last year. He says $240. Well, whenever you just take the 175 plus the 240, you're already less than the 404. His bill would have been over $500 this year, easy. And so it was even a bigger savings than what you were seeing in Lauren's examples. I was just flabbergasted. And he says, whenever that I saw this, he says, I thought it may not end up being that big of a deal, but we're going to try it. And he says, I have never been so happy with something in all my life. And so we've been really pleased. And yeah, anytime that we can save our customers money, and I'm a firm believer, I come from a town of 2,100 people. And I'm as bad about this as the next middle-class person. We don't have a Red Lobster in our town. We don't have an Applebee's. We've got a Hardee's and a Dairy Queen and a couple of mom and pop restaurants. And whenever we decide we're going to celebrate, we usually go someplace. I drive 30 miles so I can get to Walmart and Aldi's to get cheaper groceries and stuff. Our low-income families don't do that. They stay in town because they don't have that reliable transportation. They go to the local mom and pops if they do decide that there's something special to celebrate. So whenever you save our low-income families money, you're adding money to your own community better than we do a lot of times. And so I always try to remember to put that point out there too, that you're adding to your own community's well-being whenever that you're helping somebody that is considered low income have some extra money.
Great. When we had a question, and we have two questions that came up in the chat. I think maybe we should proceed and see if they get answered. because one is about the reimbursement to the agencies and how that structure works. And I think that's coming up in a subsequent slide.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the questions I always like to answer as soon as it comes up, NexAMP is a for-profit company. We are not a nonprofit. We are a mission-based. And I'll do a whole thing on NexAMP at the very end and answer any questions. But when it comes up, I don't want to hide that from anybody. We are a for-profit company.
Right, and that is not lost on your community action audience because we're built on the, the tripartite structure where we partner with businesses, and that's the way that the state of Illinois designed the program as well. So having a profit incentive is not a bad thing necessarily.
And I can't say it any better than Mindy did. One of the main reasons that we have filled more than half of the entirety of the Urbana project is through these CAP agencies. And we wanted to do that because they're a trusted source. But one of the other reasons we wanted to do it is exactly what Mindy was saying, is when we came up with how this works through the referral agreement with the CAP agencies, it was a way of putting our marketing dollars back into the community in a way by giving it to the CAP agencies instead of giving it to, say, Facebook or the post office. We decided that it actually made more sense to do the referral agreements. And that's exactly what it is. It's a referral contract. We have a contract with each one of these CAP agencies saying that we will pay them a certain amount per sign up that they help us do. So that's exactly how that works. But it is, like Mindy was saying, a way for us to put money back into these communities instead of just on marketing. And this is how it went. So by the numbers right now, it is over 250 participants. We are saving on average each household about $250 per year. And in total, we have been able to give the CAP agencies $42,000 so far in unrestricted funding. And that is only likely to grow. And I know that the CAP agencies have been able to use that funding for a lot of things, but I'll let them tell those stories now.
Well, I used some unrestricted dollars to help a furnace customer who we were able to replace her furnace through the Liheap program, but we can't do her water heater. And if I had walked away, she would have had heat, but no hot water. And so I was able to use those unrestricted dollars, hire a plumber, get her a water heater. And when I walked away from that house, she had heat and hot water last year.
Brianna, I feel like I've talked a lot. Do you want to?
Yeah. So with me being in a different position than Mindy and Kathy, and being part of agency development rather than the energy services program, our funding came in, as unrestricted, just the same. But we use it as an agency level. So what we did, we looked at different programs within our agency that were maybe struggling a little bit, experiencing some cash flow issues with some delay in grant funding, or in specific, we had, we had a couple of our home delivered clients who, for our Meals on Wheels program that we do, that were needing some extra pantry items, as well as some, toiletry items and things like that that we don't normally fund through Meals on Wheels. And so we didn't want to walk away, as Kathy mentioned. And so some of that unrestricted revenue went to provide some additional resources to our Meals on Wheels clients that our Meals on Wheels grant would not support. We also were able to help some of our customers that were dealing with some homelessness. Again, a lot of our grants at our agency do not have a specific source for homelessness or transporting them to the closest homeless shelter. We're in a small town, rural community, so we do not have a local homeless shelter or domestic violence shelter. Ours closest are probably 30, 45 minutes away. And so we were able to provide transportation to get them to a local shelter, as well as we had one that had to temporarily stay in a hotel overnight until we could get them to a shelter. And a lot of our funding sources do not cover those expenses. So unrestricted funding for us allowed us to do that, and to help those people in crisis at that particular moment. Another instance was we had a cancer patient that needed to get to Springfield for cancer treatments. And just to cover our expenses for transportation, we're looking at $75 round trip with having ADA accessible vehicles. And she was also in a wheelchair. So being able to provide a roomy enough space for her that she felt comfortable in getting her back and forth with high gas prices. This unrestricted funding allowed us to help this person get back and forth to those appointments. So like I said, it really filled the gaps for us. When you want to help somebody, you have a customer in crisis, and the grants that we have did not allow us to do that. This really filled the gaps for us.
And then we had a question in the chat about how the compensation is structured. I don't think we've covered that yet. Like, how did you get to that $42,000 figure? Is it per sign up or is it hourly?
No, it is per sign up, and that $42,000 does not include the reimbursements for the mailings. So that is that 42,000 is just in the unrestricted funding that the CAP agencies get, and it is an amount per sign up. Before I move on, Mindy, did you want to tell any stories?
Like I said, I felt like I talked a lot the last time, but yeah, I echo what the girls have said. We use it whenever that we have got a customer that's out there, somebody needing an air conditioner, and I don't have anything that is air conditioning. For one particular example, we had a little old lady, she was in her late 80s and coming home from the nursing home to a trailer and didn't have any air conditioning. Well, we all know trailers are like tin cans in the summer and they're just going to roast. And so being able to provide her with an air conditioner was a big deal. We also, our grants do silly things like not be able to have an all-day training and not be able to provide our staff with lunch. And so, just something as simple as being able to pay for lunch whenever your staff comes up, instead of saying you're brown bagging it, that's a big deal, and especially whenever that you want your staff that is on the front lines every day with everybody to feel appreciated. The last thing you really want to do is say, bring your lunch, or, we're going to go out, but you've got to go pay for your own lunch. And so just non-restricted funds, I know all the community action agencies understand how important that is. But it is just, it's just to help cover all of the silly things that you don't even think about. And then whenever that you've got a customer that's got something out there that you're like, we don't have a program that covers that, but we've got money that can cover that. That's just, it's priceless to us.
Great. And there was also a question in the chat about sign-up fees for the customer. I think I know the answer, but I want to let you guys confirm. Do the customers have to pay a fee to enroll?
For NexAMP, absolutely not. There are some community solar organizations that do. And again, it also is a bit market specific. Some markets allow that, some don't.
Mhm.
But in no markets does NexAmp have any sign up fees or any fees of any kind.
Right.
Um,
And I think that kind of cuts to the heart of the energy justice issue, right? Because we have like what we covered, the history of sort of inequity in the green environmental movement. So the idea of solar panels up until recently was really reserved for the wealthy or the middle class. And the whole idea of community solar has been around in Illinois for quite some time, but it started out in its early days as an optional thing that somebody who really cared about the environment might even pay extra for, just to bring solar onto the grid out of a sense of wanting to save the planet. And so there can be models where there are fees like that made it inaccessible and impractical for low income folks. So crafting the program in such a way that there isn't an entrance fee or any kind of extra fees is important.
Absolutely. And the only other thing that I would like to add about the contracts that the CAP agencies are in with NexAmp is that they don't have to be exclusive. NexAmp does not require that in terms of the CAP agencies. We pay for a mailer. Result of that mailer, absolutely, we would expect to go to us. But if the CAP agencies wanted to send out another mailer with another community solar developer, we wouldn't necessarily have an issue with that, and it would not be a breach of the contract either. So we do not require that in our contracts.
Is that something, Lauren, or any of our panelists, is that something that could arise in the future if like we know that there's a concerted effort to build more of a market for community solar. We know at the national level, there's the National Community Solar Partnership. So is there a future if so, how far away is it, where we would have solar companies competing to get business, to get referral business from our CAP agencies? And that is that a utopian or a dystopian future?
I will say that I feel like it's very close on the horizon. Capsule has already been, I guess we've already been asked or approached by another solar company within the last couple of months. So their agreement is a little bit different than NexAmp, but ultimately kind of similar in the way that they do things. So I would say that it's very close on the horizon. We look at, especially me looking at from an unrestricted revenue standpoint, I mean, windmills were kind of the biggest thing, wind farms and things like that for a while. And I think that those, even though those are still big, at least in Illinois, I do think solar is kind of the new thing. And I think that that's going to be very close on the horizon, where there's going to be multiple solar companies building in your area that are going to potentially come to you as a community organization for assistance, or even from a donor standpoint.
And I totally agree. We've been approached by one other company. Actually, we were approached at the NUAC conference. And then last week I spent at the RE Plus, the Renewable Energy Plus conference in California. And I was pleasantly surprised at how much the low and middle income clients were mentioned, and community solar being advertised to them, and how much legislation there is across the United States that is coming into play that does look at what I consider normally being our forgotten folks. And so I think this is, I talked to several people that I told them what we were doing, and they're like, oh my goodness, can I email you? Can I bend your ear? Can we talk more about what you're doing, so that they know? And so, yes, I feel like this is something that we will be, I feel like 5 years from now, this will be the norm.
And there's one other question that came up twice in the chat. Does the customer have to recertify periodically or annually? Do they have to, or once they're subscribed, are they just in the program forever?
So that is, again, market specific. in no state that I'm aware of do they need to recertify regularly. I will mention in Illinois, if a customer moves, they have to recertify at that time, but that's not true in every state either. So if they don't move, if nothing changes, the answer is no. Again, in all the markets that we currently work in, which is all of the low and moderate income markets, just so everyone is aware. But for Illinois specifically, if they move, they do need to recertify. Okay. And the last bit before I open it to all questions is just exactly who NextAmp is. Like I said, we are a for-profit company, but we are mission-based. Our mission statement is right there. We believe in trying to make the energy industry as simple and as accessible as possible. We don't do any upfront costs. We don't do credit checks. We also don't do late fees for those, for many reasons in any market. We try to be as environmentally friendly with our solar farms as possible, including both pollinator friendly or solar grazing. We always, every spring, we have some very cute pictures of sheep that pop up on all our social media, because we do use sheep for a good bit of our vegetation management. And then just to let you know, our current markets, obviously Illinois, we're in Maryland, New Jersey, Massachusetts, New York. Upcoming markets, so within the next couple of years, New Mexico, Maine, Minnesota, Delaware, Virginia, and Hawaii. I definitely will be volunteering to go there. But definitely am happy to answer any questions that anyone has either on NextAmp or about this process. And this is all of our contact information.
Great. Looking to see if anyone has their hand raised. So this is a lot of dense information. I'm sure that in a lot of cases, people are going to leave with more questions than they started out with, right? I just posted in the chat a link to an earlier webinar that we did with the National Renewable Energy Lab that talked about low-income solar at the national level and did an overview of which states have what policies and what initiatives are being funneled through which organizations to promote more solar accessibility for low-income folks. So this is definitely a hot topic. So there's a lot of moving parts. And again, I just want to remind everybody that everything that we talked about today is Illinois specific. So think of this as a case study. This is a case study of one relationship between one company and 3 community action agencies under the auspices of one state program called the Illinois Solar for All model. So this is very specific. We would consider it showcasing a best practice, because what we've seen is that the clients are getting a 50% discount on their electricity supply. The agencies are getting fairly compensated with unrestricted funds that they can put to good use. And then the state of Illinois is seeing their community solar market expand. So to me, it's a win-win-win. Everybody's happy. So there are other states that are in the middle of developing similar programs. So the devil is in the details. And if this is happening in your state, you should definitely find out how to participate in meetings or submit comments to, public comment opportunities. I'm gonna check the chat to see if there's any other questions. How close are you? One question that kind of popped into my mind is, how close are you to capacity, NextAmp? You're right now doing subscriptions to one particular farm, and you've got X number of customers so far. At some point, you will have all the generation from that solar farm subscribed, right?
Yes, we're getting pretty close. But I will say this: we are seeing simply the nature of these communities. We're seeing quite a bit of churn. So there will almost always be room for us to add customers to this. So much so that I'm hoping that these CAB agencies would want to do some kind of annual mailer. We are expecting that level of churn, and that just happens because people move, sometimes out of the utility territory, things like that. And just also to add on to the growth that we are going to be seeing in this market is partially because of the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act that just passed, had a very large chunk of funding specifically for low and moderate income solar. So that is part of the reason that we are seeing such a rapid growth, and it's a really hot topic right now.
And we got another good question in the chat. Jeanette Graham asked, how many of your enrolled participants are renters versus homeowners? I would imagine that our CAP agencies capture that data because they probably know from their Liheap information whether or not they are renters or owners. But I'll say up front in response to that question that community solar is accessible to renters. So like Lauren said in the beginning, you don't have to own a roof to put the panels on. On the other hand, you don't have to not own a roof either. So it would be open to both owners and renters. So in your experience, what's the breakdown here?
We didn't really look at it. You know, we have that data. We could go back and actually do it, but you know, I'm sure we have renters and homeowners, but we've never looked at that data yet.
It might be similar to the demographic breakdown for your Liheap population, right? I know, I feel, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I feel that rural areas have more owners and fewer renters, but I could be wrong. And I know that the service territories that we're talking about are a little bit more rural. We have a hand raised from David Wortman.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. First, thank you for putting this together. It's very interesting, and I love seeing my my Illinois network talking today. It's great to see you all. The question I have, the time that it takes to fill out the paperwork, are the agencies doing, are you sitting across the table with the person as they're doing this? And no, I see head shaking. So you're sending it to the people. For them to qualify, is it just as simple as letting them, sending in proof that you have Liheap? Because if Liheap is categorical, I would hope that it's as easy as possible. And if it's, so I'm seeing that it is that easy. So the last question is, this seems like giving away candy. So like it should be very easy. So with these mailers that you're doing, why, when people come in, I would think if the first 100, you just say, hey, do you want to save $20 a month for filling this paperwork out? Wouldn't that be as easy as sending out mailers? I'm kind of confused of the process to get people interested in doing this.
It would be easy if we hadn't just gone through COVID and where we didn't see people in person. An in-person across the board would have been an easy sale for any community action agency. But because we started this during COVID, we had to go with mailers. And also because of the bad experience a lot of people had with the alternative retail suppliers in Illinois, they were very cautious, very, very cautious. And it was just our whole interaction with them. But if we could talk to them across the table, they'd be like, where do I sign up? You know, because we're telling you it's a good thing. So that's kind of where we were at with it. It was a little harder lift, but you know, not difficult.
I will also mention that with the Illinois Solar for All program, until recently, that also would have been impossible. Illinois Solar for All program requires the subscription organization to do the bill analysis in a particular way, which takes time, as well as Again, until recently, there needed to be a 24-hour period of time between when a customer was told about this program and when they were even allowed to start filling out paperwork. So that has changed, but the CAP agencies don't have the portal access, the ability to do that bill analysis the way the Illinois Solar for All program requires. So unfortunately, they in Illinois specifically, they can't do that. There are other markets where they can, and we could give CAP agencies blank contracts for them to fill out across the table with somebody. But again, that's market specific, and in Illinois, it's just not possible.
Okay, thank you for answering that. We have two questions that came up in the chat that are kind of a continuation of this conversation. There's a question about, well, Craig asked, are there any large-scale customer education projects planned or underway? The lift on the agency is much lighter if the customer responds with, I've heard of that. And I told him in the chat that if you guys could speak more about the fact that you're certified grassroots solar educators. I know that the Illinois Solar for All program is very sophisticated and it has this grassroots educator category. And then that kind of speaks to another question that we had about the origins of the Illinois Solar for All program. So yes, it did come from legislation. And so it's been around for many years and there are a lot of specific parameters. So if you could talk about the Solar for All in general and that grassroots educator certification process.
Well, when we got the grant to do the grassroots education, I think it was kind of their first year. It was an interesting experience, and I think they've come a long way and been doing things a little bit differently. But the first year we did it, we just went out to our customer base where we already had workshops. We scheduled them. We went out. We talked about Illinois Solar for All. And like I said before, we felt like there was the missing piece. We generated the excitement, but we had nothing to refer them to. Well, that was the next step we wanted to do. And by contract, we could not do that until our contract was up as a grassroots educator because they did not want us, showing favorites, I guess, or referring people to one company. So that also kind of hinders being a grassroots educator and working with solar companies, at the same time. You can't do that unless that's changed. That's what we ran into.
So it sounds like you're saying in answer to Craig's question that the state Solar for All program moderates or monitors the education around the program. So I don't want to overstep my bounds, but it sounds like you may feel like they're a little heavy-handed, but this is all new, right? It's just been
Right.
developed within the last few years. And so there are lessons learned and
yeah, and there's education. I mean, they have a certain set of rules and as an educator, you follow those. And it's the same. I mean, you don't put things out that they don't first go through and make sure, just the way I wouldn't put something out for next AMP unless they've looked it over. So there's a process. It's not a difficult process, but we just couldn't work the two at the same time.
Right. And as a former consumer advocate, I would assert that consumer education campaigns are very different from marketing campaigns, right? And so that's the beauty of having this system have so much oversight from the state, because I think there is a concerted effort that's pretty much well-intentioned to do more education, like Craig was asking, as opposed to just turning a bunch of for-profit companies loose on the market to sell stuff willy-nilly, which is what Illinois saw with the alternative retail electric suppliers. So there's some burnt tail feathers in this market. We know that we know the downside of unlimited, unrestricted marketing. So,
and it was important to us because we had to get an understanding of community solar and the Illinois Solar for All program. And if we had not done the grassroots education, I don't feel like we would have been in the place to advise our customers as, you know, as well as what we can. Okay.
That's
I
how,
just- that
that's
education
how I feel
part
about it
was,
too.
yeah, that education for us was important.
Which I'm pretty sure Kathy and I were both in on the very first year. And the
Oh.
legislation that started this was from the Future Energy Jobs Act. And I want to say it was passed in 2018. Does that sound right, Kathy?
Yeah, and I mean, I looked up our contract and we signed it in 2018. So we had, yeah, I think we were kind of.
Yeah, we did. And yeah, I echo that the grassroots education on that was absolutely, Amy, I know you didn't mean that in a bad way, but heavy-handed is a little, I mean, I feel like that they were cautious
Mhm.
and didn't want us to be leaning one way or another while we were doing the education. And so, because yeah, we did the same thing. We did that for a year and then we came out and started looking for ways to help, and Kathy helped get me involved with NextAmp, and we are furthering looking for things that we can do to help our communities with community solar.
Great. Well, we do still have time for question and answer, but I can also let everybody go early if we're running to the end of everyone's questions. I don't see any more hands raised. I want to thank everybody for participating in the chat and introducing yourself. And for those of you that showed up live, anybody who registered for the webinar will get the slides and a link to the recording. So once it comes to you in your email, feel free to share it with others. This is great content. I want to thank our panelists for taking the time to talk on this subject. As I said in the beginning, it's complicated, and so it's a continually evolving subject. So all of this still has moving parts. There are still probably more things happening with the Illinois Solar for All program, right? Yeah, and this could be similar processes could be playing out in other states. So this is a peek behind the curtain, and I look forward to potentially getting updates on the program in the future, or highlighting other community action agencies that are involved in similar endeavors, because as I said, I think we all know that there's going to be more of this soon. So I see a question in the chat. Thank you, everyone. Nobody else has any other questions. I guess I'll go ahead and end the recording. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you all so very much.
Feel free to reach out to our presenters or to myself if you have any questions that occur to you after the event. Take care. Bye-bye.